स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। Namaste my dear friends, this is video number 42 on Talks with Ramana Maharshi. Video number 42 starts with talk number 543. Many visitors came on one occasion and they all saluted Sri Bhagwan with the single prayer, "Make me a bhakta, give me moksha." After they left, Sri Bhagwan said, thinking aloud, "All of them want bhakti and moksha. If I say to them, 'Give yourself to me,' they will not. How then can they get what they want?" Talk number 544. On one occasion, a few devotees were discussing among themselves the relative merits of some famous bhaktas. They did not agree among themselves and referred the matter to Sri Bhagwan. He remained silent. The discussion grew hot. Finally, Sri Bhagwan said, "One cannot know about another, nor can confer bondage or release on another. Each one desires to become famous in the world. It is natural for man, but that desire alone does not bring about the end in view. He who is not accepted by God is certainly humiliated. He who has surrendered himself, body and mind, to God becomes famous all over the world." Talk number 545. A was once badly distracted by sexual thoughts. He thought against them. He fasted 3 days and prayed to God so that he might be free from such thoughts. Finally, he decided to ask Sri Bhagwan about it. Sri Bhagwan listened to him and remained silent for about 2 minutes. Then he said, "Well, the thoughts distracted you and you fought against them. That is good. Why do you continue to think of them now? Whenever such thoughts arise, consider to whom they arise and they will flee away from you." Talk number 546. A asked, "A person does something good, but he sometimes suffers pain even in his right activities. Another does something wicked but is also happy. Why should it be so?" Maharshi, pain or pleasure is the result of past karma and not of the present karma. Pain and pleasure alternate with each other. One must suffer or enjoy them patiently without being carried away by them. One must always try to hold on to the self. When one is active, one should not care for the results and must not be swayed by the pain or pleasure met with occasionally. He who is indifferent to pain or pleasure can also be happy. Talk number 547. Devotee. What is the significance of Guru's grace in attainment of liberation? Maharshi, liberation is not anywhere outside you, it is only within. If a man is anxious for deliverance, the Guru within pulls him in, and the Guru without pushes him into the self. This is the grace of Guru. Talk number 548. A visitor asked Sri Bhagwan in writing the following questions. Number 1. Were the differences in the world simultaneous with creation, or are they of later growth? 2. Is the Creator impartial? Then why is one born lame, another blind, and so on? Third, are the eight Dikpalas, 33 crores of gods, and the seven rishis existent even today? Maharshi, refer these questions to yourself and the answers will be found. After a pause, Sri Bhagwan continued, if we first know ourselves, then all other matters will be plain to us. Let us know ourselves and then inquire some concerning the Creator and creation. Without first knowing the self, to seek knowledge of God, etc., is ignorance. A man suffering from jaundice sees everything yellow. If he tells others all things are yellow, who will accept his statement? The creation is said to have an origin. How? Like a tree and the seed from which it has grown. How was the seed produced from a similar tree? Where is the end to the series of questions? Therefore, one must know oneself before the world is known. Talk number 549. Sri Bhagwan often speaks of Namaskar, prostration in the following strain. This Namaskar was originally meant for the ancient sages to serve as a means of surrender to God. The act still prevails, but not the spirit behind it. The doer of the Namaskar intends to deceive the object of worship by his act. It is mostly insincere and deceitful. It is meant to cover up innumerable sins. Can God be deceived? The man thinks that God accepts his namaskar and that he himself is free to continue his old life. They need not come to me. I am not pleased with these namaskars. The people should keep their minds clean. Instead of that, they bend themselves or lie prostrate before me. I am not deceived by such acts. Talk 550. Somerset Maugham, a well-known English author, was on a visit to Sri Bhagwan. He also went to see Major Chadwick in his room, and there he suddenly became unconscious. Major Chadwick requested Sri Bhagwan to see him. Sri Bhagwan went into the room, took his seat, and gazed on Mr. Mogham. He regained his senses and saluted Sri Bhagwan. They remained silent and sat facing each other for nearly an hour. The author attempted to ask questions but did not speak. Major Chadwick encouraged him to ask. Sri Bhagwan said, all finished. Heart talk is all talk. All talk must end in silence only. They smiled and Sri Bhagwan left the room. Talk number 551. A man asked Sri Bhagwan, how is it that Atma Vidya is said to be the easiest? Maharshi, any other Vidya requires a knower, knowledge and the object to be known, whereas this does not require any of them. It is the self. Can anything be so obvious as that? Hence, it is the easiest. All that you need do is to inquire who am I. A man's true name is Mukti, liberation. Talk number 552. There are some buildings in the ashramam. They used to have some plan which somehow could not be followed in entirety. Therefore, A and the Sarvadhikari did not agree on many details and there used to be trouble between them. He was once highly disgusted with the state of affairs. He asked Sri Bhagwan what could be done under the circumstances. Sri Bhagwan said, which of the buildings was according to the plan made by these people here? God has his own plans and all these go on according to that. No one need worry as to what happens. Talk number 553. The Asramites once asked Sri Bhagwan, how were we all in our previous birth? Why do we need not know our own past? Maharshi, who in his mercy has withheld this knowledge from people. God in his mercy has withheld his knowledge from the people. If they knew that they were virtuous, they will grow proud. Contrariwise, they will be depressed. Both are bad. Both are bad. It is enough that one knows the self. Talk 554. Maharshi, just as a river does not continue its flow after its discharge into the ocean, so also a person loses all moments after he merges in the self. Talk number 555. Sri Bhagwan once recounted how Kavya Kantha Ganapati Mani asked him, my own opinion is that a man can live on rupees 3 a month. What is Sri Bhagwan's opinion in the matter? Maharshi, a man can live happily only if he knows that he requires nothing wherewith to live. Talk 556. Major Chadwick asked Sri Bhagwan one night, the world is said to become manifest after the mind becomes manifest. There is no mind when I sleep. Is the world not existent to others at that time? Does it not show that the world is the product of a universal mind? How then shall we say that the world is not material but only dream-like? Maharshi, the world does not tell you that it is of the individual mind or of the universal mind. It is only the individual mind that sees the world. When this mind disappears, the world also disappears. There was a man who saw in his dream his father who had died 30 years earlier. Furthermore, he dreamed that he had four more brothers and that his father divided his property among them. A quarrel ensued. The brothers assaulted the man and he woke up in a fright. Then he remembered that he was all alone. He had no brothers and the father was dead long ago. His fright gave place to contentment. So you see, when you see ourselves, there is no world, and when we lose sight of the self, we get ourselves abound in the world. Talk number 557. A visitor asked, we are advised to concentrate on the spot in the forehead between the eyebrows. Is it right? Maharshi, everyone is aware I am. Leaving aside that awareness, one goes about in search of God. What is the use of fixing one's attention between the eyebrows? It is mere folly to say that God is between eyebrows. The aim of such advice is to help the mind to concentrate. It is one of the forcible methods to check the mind and prevent its dissipation. It is forcibly directed into one channel. It is a help to concentration. But the best means of realization is the inquiry, who am I? The who am I? The present trouble is to the mind and it must be removed by the mind only. Devotee, are there restrictions to be observed in food? Maharshi, sattva food taken in moderation. Devotee, there are several asanas mentioned. Which of them is the best? Maharshi, Nididhasana, one pointedness of the mind is the best. Talk number 558. A visitor asked Sri Bhagwan, when I heard of you, a strong desire arose in me to see you. Why should it be so? Maharshi, the desire arose in the same way as the body arises to the self. Devotee, what is the purpose of life? Maharshi, to seek to know the significance of life is itself the result of good karma in past births. Those who do not seek such knowledge are simply wasting their lives. Talk number 559. A man asked Sri Bhagwan, Sri Bhagwan can know when I shall become a jnani. Please tell me when it will be. Maharshi, if I am a Bhagwan, then there is no one apart from me to whom jnana should arise or to whom I should speak. If I am an ordinary man like others, then I am as ignorant as the rest. Either way, your question cannot be answered. Talk number 560. When Sri Bhagwan was taking his bath, a few bhaktas were around him speaking to themselves. Then they asked him about the use of ganja, hashish. Sri Bhagwan had finished his bath by that time. He said, "Oh Ganja, the users feel immensely happy when they are under its influence. How shall I describe their happiness? They simply shout Ananda, Ananda." Saying so, he walked as if tipsy. The Bhaktas laughed. He appeared as if he stumbled, placed his hands round a and cried, "Ananda, Ananda." He records that his very being was transformed from that time. He had remained an inmate for the past 8 years. He further says that his mind now remains at peace. Talk number 561. Devotee. What is Saurupa, form, and Arupa, formless of the mind? Maharshi, when you wake up from sleep, a light appears. That is the light of the self passing through Mahat Tattva. It is called cosmic consciousness. That is Arupa. The light falls on the ego and is reflected therefrom. Then the body and the world are seen. This mind is Savrupa. The objects appear in the light of this reflected consciousness. This light is called Jyoti. 21st October 1938, talk number 562. There is a statement in the book Vichara Sangraha that though a person realizes the self once, he cannot for that simple reason alone become a mukta. He continues to remain a victim of vasanas, latencies. Sri Bhagwan was asked whether the realization referred to was the same as the jnanis, and if so, why there should be a difference in their effects. Maharshi replies, the experience is the same. Every person experiences the self consciously or unconsciously. The Ajnani's experience is clouded by his latencies, whereas the Jnani's is not so. The Jnani's experience of the self is therefore distinct and permanent. A practitioner may be long a practitioner may by long practice gain a glimpse of the reality. This experience may be vivid for the time being, and yet he will be distracted by the old vasanas, and so his experience will not avail him. Such a man must continue his manana and nididhyasana so that all the obstacles may be destroyed. He will then be able to remain permanently in the real state. Devotee, what is the difference between a man who makes no attempts and remains an ajnani and another who gains glimpse and returns to ajnana? Maharshi, in the latter case, a stimulus is always present to goad him into further efforts until the realization is perfect. Devotee, the Shrutis say, Sakrit vibhayot vibhatoyam brahmaloka. This knowledge of Brahma shines forth once and forever. Maharshi, they refer to the permanent realization and not to the glimpse. Devotee, how is it possible that a man forgets his very experience and falls back into ignorance? Sri Bhagavan illustrated it with the following story. There was a king who treated his subjects well. One of his ministers gained his confidence and misused the influence. All the other ministers and officers were adversely affected, and they hit upon a plan to get rid of him. They instructed the guards not to let the man enter the palace. The king noted his actions and inquired after him. He was informed that the man was taken ill and could not therefore come to the palace. The king deputed his physician to attend on the minister. False reports were conveyed to the king that the minister was sometimes improving and at other times collapsing. The king desired to see the patient, but the Pandit said that such an action was against dharma. Later, the minister was reported to have died. The king was very sorry when he heard the news. The arrogant minister was kept informed of all the happenings by spies of his own. He tried to foil the other ministers. He waited for the king to come out of the palace so that he might report himself to the king. On one occasion he climbed up a tree, hid himself among the branches and awaited the king. The king came out and that night in the palanquin, and the man in hiding jumped down in front of the palanquin and shouted his identity. The companion of the king was equally resourceful. He at once took out a handful of sacred ashes vibhuti from his pocket and scattered it in the air so that the king was obliged to close his eyes. The companion shouted victory, Jai to the king, and ordered the band to play so that the so that the other man's shout was drowned in the noise. He also ordered the palanquin bearers to move fast, and he himself sang incantation to keep off evil spirits. The king was thus left under the impression that the dead man's ghost was playing pranks with him. The disappointed man became desperate and retired into the forest for tapasya, austerities. After a long time, the king happened to go hunting. He came across the former minister seated in deep contemplation, but he hastened away from the spot lest the ghost should molest him. The moral of the story is that even though the man was seen in flesh and blood, yet the wrong notion that he was a ghost prevented right values being taken. So it was with a forced realization of the self. So this video is completed. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe the channel. Thanks a lot. Namaskar my dear friends. Namaskar.